Hey everyone, it's Lamar with MetaRank Interactive. Thanks for joining the Healthcare Digital Marketing Podcast. Super excited about this guest today, Mike Mickoff, and he's going to really wow you guys. I met Mike through. He's awesome, guys. So I met this guy through a mutual friend, and just nothing but praise for this man. Well connected in the community. He really touches on leadership, team management, communication, all these things that a business that would need to grow and be successful. He also wrote a book about culture, so love to kind of open in on that as well. And he's in the racing industry. There it is. I love it. He's in the racing industry, so he team performance is huge for him. And then also he owns his own company called Deck Leadership. So I will let Mike really just open up and really describe his experiences and his background. I think the audience would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Lamar, for having me. I don't feel any pressure to wow anybody. I'm gonna just ignore that and just try to be myself. So, man, I played football in college. Tore my ACL twice. I can touch on that later, but just I didn't get the use out of my body that I wanted. I wanted to compete. I've loved sports and team environment, that locker room kind of feel, and just the collaboration and camaraderie that existed there. So it led me to keep training. An opportunity opened up to either play. I know a lot of the group of guys that we're with play basketball internationally. There's an opportunity to play football internationally or work on a race team. And I didn't know anything about it, but I accepted the tryout, thinking if it worked, it would be something that I would do for maybe 5 years. I was a finance and banking major. And then after that, I would go get a real job. Real job. And that was 16 years ago. So started out as a developmental pit crew athlete. So half the day would be pit crew stuff. And then the other half would be working in a race shop. That's what it was back then. You had to have some kind of mechanical ability. Okay. I would say a few years after that, you could see the series shift. And everybody wanted athletes. And now it's that you're a specialist. So the specialty that I took up was fueling. And so I still do that. But there are plenty of people that's fuel. That's all they do. They wake up, work on fueling race cars, work out, train, watch film, go home. That's it. So it's become a career and a very fun way to make a living. Also very high pressure. And that's what, that's what has kind of brought me to where I am now. NASCAR Pit Crews are comprised of 5 people, and we're required to change 4 tires and put 18 gallons of gas in a race car in less than 12 seconds. Wow. And so the choreography that goes into that, a lot of people, they're like, man, how do I get my team to function like a pit crew? You do the dirty work, or you're like the behind the scenes people. And so many people relate to not being the star doctor or the CEO or but it's, even somebody like yourself. It's your business, it's small, and there's a brand that's out in front and websites, but you're behind the scenes running the curtain. And so how do we get these people to think about things like the pit crew? And what we came up with was when, Shaun and I took over Chip Ganassi race. So I'll backtrack just for a second. Started as a pit crew person, kind of worked my way up, started eventually coaching and training other pit crews. And then now I'm a player coach at Chip Ganassi Racing. So Shaun Peet and I are team leads for the team, like human performance, which involves pit crew and just kind of working to make just wellness initiatives to just make everybody better. And
that's awesome.
Try to get the most out of them, right? So we inherited pit crews that were outside of the top 20. And in a very competitive market, in about 3 years, we had a team that was top 3, and then another, I think we were like 7. So we're having teams that are right around that top 5 in 3 years. And it wasn't money. Everybody's like, well, if I had more money. Well, it wasn't money. Well, if we had a bigger building or more resources, it wasn't that. It was the environment that we were in and the culture that we built and the type of people that we started attracting and going after. We let a lot of talented people go. They weren't pulling the boat in the right direction. And so think there's a book, What Do You Do with the Talented Jerk? You know, for us, it was, we had to fire him. And, and, and we say all the time, you know, fail quickly. Funny story, since I think you like that. The first big hire we had was a tire carrier from a very well-known team, well-known driver. And we were fortunate to get this guy. You know, they're taking a chance on rookie coaches was a big leap for him. And we realized that the direction that we wanted to go in, it wasn't it. And so brought him in for a meeting after I think he had only been there for about 5 weeks. We're like, hey, we're gonna make a change on your car. And he was like, okay, good. Who is it? And we're like,
right.
it's you. And you know, we realized we made a mistake. And you know, that happens. We're humans. Sometimes people just aren't the right fit. And so we've been fortunate to be able to find people that are the right fit and build a really successful program. When you're talking about working under pressure, you know, you're talking cars that are traveling at 190 miles per hour. And
Hold on. You're giving all the sauce away.
Okay. Sorry.
All the sauce away. Yeah. Let's back up a little bit, because you hit on some really good points. And I think our audience, who are, you know, entrepreneurs, you know, doctors, you know, marketing professionals, and so forth, they really need to hear this point, because I think it's so critical. Because just to give you context, we work with a lot of physicians that are starting a new practice, right? They're opening up a new business, and they are trying to figure it all out, right? They're trying to figure out their culture, leadership, putting the right people in place, and then also just being able to utilize speed in a way that it will help them grow successfully. And I think you hit, you know, what really touched me when you said hiring and then firing fast to really learn and build the right team and culture to really produce the results that you did when you started with this, you know, this NASCAR team. And so talk to us about speed, because you were going into that direction. So why is it so important to really, you know, think through the process and focus on speed and business? Because I think a lot of people think, you know, everything can, you know, you can go in a slow, methodical way, but
yeah,
sometimes you have to fail fast to really learn things. And I would just love for you to open up on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we put the tagline here that speed is the currency of business. It used to be, I mean, it was resources, it was, you know, human capital, it was like all these things. And now speed is what sells. And it's not big beating small anymore. It's just fast beating slow. And it, you know, if you're a team of one or two, you can knock off giants if you can deliver for people quicker, because that's all people are looking for. You know, you think about a Jimmy John's, is it the best sandwich in the world? Like, nah, I mean, it's good, but you know that you're going to be in and out of there in a couple minutes, and that's why people love it. They can consistently deliver speed with the same quality over time. And that's what you're looking to do as entrepreneurs or anybody building a team. The way we do it is that I think a lot of people want to outline a process or do things, and, you know, we got to get faster, It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, for pit stops, it's what is every movement and every step required to do or complete a specific task? And we literally lay them all out one by one.
Oh, okay.
So say for one, the fueler, say there's 60 different prompts for gassing a race car. Cool. Well, how do we get it to 59? A lot of people think speed is how do we get it to 30? And it's not. It's efficiency. It's not wasting movements, not bringing people on board that you're going to have to fire and then upload somebody else, and then everybody else has moved on, and then now you got to catch this person up. Wow. Putting in the work beforehand. We have a very specific curated pre-hiring practice where we bring people in and let them go through kind of live reps and kind of get them in the fire and see how that goes, introducing certain kind of pressures and prompts and just seeing how they respond to that, because how they respond there is probably going to be more like how you're going to respond in real life, not just asking questions in an artificial Zoom desk environment.
It's like an assessment, right? Like you would just have an assessment or evaluation, putting them in the like a real example to just see how they respond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we do that, and then we I mean, there is some questioning, kind of traditional stuff, but it's after that. The first thing we do is like in the fire.
Okay.
We can talk about resume and what you did in school, and how great your references are. Everybody's got great references. Everybody can pass an interview. There's literally master classes on passing interviews. Like that's the last thing we need to do when hiring is to think about interviews. We need to have people actually real problems. All right, what would you do?
Can I ask you a question to that point? So, okay, let's say there's a doctor, right? And he's trying to staff, for a office manager. And so would you tell him, if you were working with him from a kind of a leadership consulting management standpoint, when he's looking at resumes, do you look at if they like, so in your case, are you looking at the experience for like an office manager and then just throwing them in the, in the office to kind of see how they respond? Or would you recommend, is it a person with no experience? They're not necessarily office management experience in a dental practice, but you're going to still throw them in the same way. I'm just curious of how you look at, because you mentioned you don't look at resumes. I'm just curious how you look at experience versus throwing them in the pit just to really see how they respond. Because I think and I can relate to my business, right? Because I go through all this interview process, right? I go through this interviewing process and I'm looking at resumes, I'm looking at all these things, and then I'm putting them through assessments and asking them certain questions. But to your point, I love what you just said, because you get them and you throw them in there. Hey, can you really do this? And I think that's so critical to fail fast and hire the right person. So I'm just curious to hear your take on that. Like, I guess back to that point of, is it really resume focused and throwing them in there, or no experience throwing them in there? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a minimal level of experience for any position, a certain kind of knowledge innate about it. But some of the best people that we've had very little experience, but what they did have was attributes.
Okay.
So it's and that's what you do when you go in the fire, or when you have like carefully curated questions. What do you want your legacy to be? Who's really good at this job? Like who's someone that that's really good at this job that you're applying for, and what makes them really good at it? Because that'll tell you if they've researched that job.
Wow.
If there's somebody that they admire, or if there's something that they're following, it shows the attribute of thinking outside of just having direction just from Lamar. I'm going to learn, and I want to learn from all people, and I want to learn from others' mistakes, and I want to, you know what I mean? Like there's a proactiveness to that. And those are attributes that will translate across any platform.
Yeah.
Having somebody that's really knowledge in one lane, that's a skill. We want attributes. And we also want people that are standard oriented and not goal oriented. And the difference there is, and so we'll ask things about like, what goals do you have in this job? It's like, okay, cool. What standards do you have that help you achieve the goals that you want? And if they can't just quickly say a couple things that like point to like, okay, I have a standard of, man, I'm an early riser and I read and I do X, Y, and Z. Goals sound great. Everybody has a goal of making $1 billion next year and being the Fortune 1 company for like everybody has goals, but not everybody has the standards that are going to help you achieve. You have all the Simon Sinek start with why. Like everyone has the why, that's the goal, but the standards are how you get there. And so it's looking at standards, it's looking at attributes, and trying to get the real person and the real character and integrity and work ethic, kind of like trying to figure out how to unpack that, I think is more important than unpacking what their experiences are, because experiences can vary across so many different platforms. Business changes, COVID rule changes, sports, there's rules, there's always change.
Right.
What works in one year doesn't necessarily always work for another.
Yeah, so you just made me change my entire interview process. But I love it though, because it really challenges me as a business owner to think about like how to get the right people to impact the physicians and dentists that we work with. So to go to continue on this path of just really speed and failing fast, and when you do that, there's going to be a lot of pressure, right? Like how would you recommend someone to handle pressure and failure when running their business?
Yeah, I think the thing that there's a couple ways to approach it. One is from one side when it comes to the pressure of the job. Um, when the things that aren't pressure packed, let's not make a big deal about them, and let's care about people and know their birthdays and anniversaries and when their wife came back to work from maternity leave. Like, let's connect on a very human level
Yeah.
when it comes to things that aren't like, all right, we have to be locked in. Like, let's have some leeway so that when we know when we are in a pressure moment, okay, we can do that, but it's not all the time. Humans aren't wired to be in like, we gotta go all the time. The sun comes up and down, seasons change, and so do our bodies, and our minds need time to rest and reset.
Right.
On the other side, when you do have those moments, if we know that our teammates care and the people that work, we're not just here for just the money, that there is actual genuine connection. Self-determination theory says that people need to feel competent in what they do, connected to others, and
Yeah.
authentic in who they are to be successful. And so a lot of people feel confident in their ability. Um, can you be authentic in who you are at your job? We talk about diversity and inclusion is such a big thing right now.
Yeah.
Not having the illusion of inclusion, of feeling like I have to act a certain way to fit in, but being able to just be yourself and bring your skills and gifts and talents to the table in a way in which your team appreciates it is
Right.
really, really important to the success of the individual. And then that connected to others. If I heard it the other day that business relationships that are personal relationships accelerate outcomes faster because there's trust, and trust is the biggest driver of speed and efficiency in an organization. And so if you can trust the people you work with, your actions parallel your words, it's easy to say, okay, these are people I can rock with. We can go into these pressure moments and we can get deals done. We can get patients serviced the way that they need to. We can provide the care that we want. We can grow the business and feel like we're doing it the right way with people that we feel like are going to be here, that are invested in it. And then at that point, pressure becomes a privilege of the growth that you're doing. It's like it's pressure of pressing roots down into the ground, right? So that your tree can grow up and be stronger and have more branches for more patients, for more locations, things like that. That's what you're feeling. Now, if you don't feel like you have the support that you need, or if you don't feel like people have your back, or if you don't feel like you can be who you are, then that pressure is going to choke you out. But if it's good soil and you feel like, okay, these are folks that I feel like I kind of like them. I trust them. I enjoy being around them. We work well together. Then we have a pressure is a privilege phrase on the back of all of our t-shirts. Like, it means that you're in a big moment. It means that life is demanding a lot of you and that you're doing something that matters. No, I promise you, no one feels the pressure of, when it's construction and there's stop on one side and slow on the other. Do those guys ever look like there's pressure? I mean, they barely look awake, you know what I mean? But because they're not in a big moment. But you're talking to medical professionals. Some of this stuff can be, maybe it's not life or death in the moment, but it could lead to that, and it matters. And so it's like, hey, we're doing some really cool stuff here. I love feeling pressure.
Right. Now, that's awesome. And I think to that point, it's really important to understand the camaraderie, the relationships, and holding each other accountable, but also having each other's back, because to that point you're building a team, where you evolve, right? Like, you build that good soul that you're talking about. When it comes to, I think, pressure as well, because you said, I think it was 12 seconds you guys have to get your job done, and
yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. It is, especially the crew chiefs and drivers. I mean, they mean well, most of them, and they just, it's like, all right, hey, we're running second. We got to get a good pit stop, and if we can get ahead of this car, we can win the race. And it's like, all right, guys, don't mess it up.
Right.
We really need a good one here. And it's like they all need to be good. Like we know we're here. This is what we do for a living. Shut up. And then, and in that moment, what do you do? do you rise to the occasion? I don't think so. I think you retreat to your fundamentals. You retreat
Mm,
to what your norms are. If you typically don't manage your emotions and let outside noise distract you or stress you out, then you're probably maybe not going to deliver in that moment. But
right,
if you say, no, no, we want this, we want to be in this moment, it means that our car is fast. It means that we didn't wreck.
right.
It means that our preparation is working and the plan is working. I'm glad we're feeling this pressure and feeling this heat. So
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome because you're winning together at that point. And I think
right,
that
right.
makes it even, much more fun to go through that process through, impacting the way you're impacting someone else's life through this race that, is a part of something bigger, but then you build a culture around that. And so
Yeah.
I think to that point, how do you get that competitive advantage with the culture? If you would talk to a business owner or even, when you think about your own pit crew and your own business, how do you get that competitive advantage with the culture?
Yeah, I think there's probably, I could rattle off probably like 20 things, but I'd say for this conversation, number one, I would say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think it was Peter Drucker that said that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can have the best plan in the world, but if you have a culture of people that know how to adapt and problem solve and ideate and innovate and collaborate, then you're going to beat somebody that just is living by like, well, if we do X, Y, and Z, it should work.
Yeah.
And so it's having that strong culture, that healthy ecosystem of people. I talked a little bit about being authentic. Having diversity in your, and I don't mean black and white, but having true diversity to
Yeah.
me is just wholeness. It's, if I have a box of crayons, you wouldn't just want. I couldn't sell you a pack of 64 black ones and say no, it's a complete set, or you know half black, half white, a couple, other, no. We need every color in there. And that's what makes the thing whole, right? And so having people from different backgrounds and socioeconomic deal, coming back to resumes. I mean, we wanted not the big time SEC athlete. We wanted people that had to play at a JUCO or they went to a community college because they were taking care of an ailing parent and barely made it through, but they had to work two jobs. Like that's grit that
Right.
translate anywhere. Like that's somebody that knows how to make things happen. And so many times we kind of get lost in like, man, we got a culture. We have all these people that come from all these great backgrounds or, and it's like, do you? Have you thought outside of just really strong skill sets,
Yeah.
and so it's having people that can think that think with diversity of thought. It's transparency, having a culture of transparency. I say all the time, my favorite maybe leadership quote is that to be 99% known is to be unknown.
Mm.
And it's so many, like for us, racing is tenths of seconds. um Football is a game of inches.
Yeah.
So many times, like you probably can say, man, if I had one more deal or one more client or one more, like it would have made the month so much better. And
Or this to be funny, if I was a little taller.
yeah, a little bit taller. If I was a little bit taller, I would have. Steph wouldn't be in the NBA. It would be me.
Exactly.
Um, it's but so many times, unsuccessful or successful, outcomes just rely on like really, really thin. The margin is so small, and a lot of teams don't perform because people aren't really transparent. You need to communicate what you need. So many times I tell teams all the time, like a lot of times people are looking for solutions and the answers in the room, but people
Mhm.
don't speak up. They're scared to share their idea because they don't know if somebody's going to take it and take credit for it and they won't get rewarded for it. There's the last time they came up with something, it didn't work.
Yeah.
The last time they came up with something, they got laughed at. Like there's so many reasons why we aren't transparent in teams. And it's not even something that's really even taught in a lot of families. It's not something that a lot of us even grew up with. A lot of people were just like, oh, sweep it on the rug, don't deal with it. But there's no bigger incubator of human emotions than teams
Yeah.
because
For
you're
sure.
throwing people together and then it's like, all right, we have to get this deal. We have to achieve this amount of revenue. We have to do this. And it's like, okay, bam, all these emotions come up. And so high performing cultures, they can manage their emotions because they can be transparent, because they know that people have their back. So they cannot, high performing teams are worried about executing tasks and
Mm,
getting things done. They're not worried about what other people think or what other people are going to say.
that's
And
good.
that's the huge difference. It's a tire changer on the wall thinking about lug nuts versus a tire changer thinking on the wall thinking about, if this doesn't go bad, what's my driver or crew chief going to say?
Yeah.
And that's a huge difference. The person thinking about lug nuts, man, that is easy. We practice that all the time.
Right.
They can do that in their sleep. And when that car comes in, you knock it out of the park. But if you're worried about your job, or if your bills are going to get paid, or
Your emotions are all jacked up. You can't really.
yeah, like the story machines in our heads, all the fears that we go to, if we can put all that stuff out and just bam, lock in on what we're doing, that's how that culture part becomes an advantage to where, okay, we're actually going to be faster now because we can get more work done in a short amount of time because we're using it this much energy on this much work, where a lot of people are using the opposite, right? It's like this much energy, true energy toward the work, to this much work.
Right. So you hit the nail on the head with the culture aspect, but then also you really touched on the, how to build high, functional teams. And I think you alluded to kind of, the difference between goals and standards, but talk to us about like when let's say even for, from a deck leadership standpoint, you're helping businesses really understand goals versus standards. How do you dive into that? How do you, like, even when you think of your pit crew, how do y'all really separate those things?
Yeah, I think it for us, it starts with. I'll answer the question in a second, but for us, it starts with our expectations. A lot of people start jobs, and they are applying for a job that has, a post somewhere, and there's, you ask some questions. Can you do X, Y, and Z? Can you operate this kind of machinery or this kind of software? Okay, cool. This is the job, this is what it pays, this is when you start, this is what benefits looks like, here's your computer, this is where you're going to work,
Yeah.
this is when these kind of meetings are. And it's all the things about how to do your job, like the what of your job, but not necessarily the how.
Okay.
And a lot of people are guilty of it. And this is one of the, would be the deck kind of to answer that. A lot of people, we spend a lot of time working in our job, but not a lot of time working on it.
Mm.
We work horizontally. All right, how do I get and move this, what I have on my plate or what I've been asked to do, how do I get to Tuesday and then to Wednesday and then to the end of the project, or end of the year? How do I get to Friday is what where most people are. Then I can not think about this and then we'll do it again. Whereas what we're trying to do is get back to that efficiency and speed piece. Okay, this is my body of work, it's 60 movements, how do I get it to 59?
Right.
Working on our job. And I think that starts with standards, and expectations are what feeds into standards. And it's letting people know this is how we work. This is how we arrive. We say all the time that your culture is only as strong as the worst behaviors you're willing to tolerate. And so if you let people come in late, and if you, oh, all right, that wasn't the best job, but I'm busy, I can't do everything, okay, I mean, that's fine, but is it, is that going to get you where you want to go? Is that going to give you the standards that you want? And so we are very specific. At the start of every year, we send out to all our teams and do it in person. I mean, it's got to be like 25 slides. I mean, it's a lot.
Oh, wow.
Takes about 3 hours. And I would encourage all of you to do this with your team and with your partners. Lamar, you play sports, man. You would never go into a season with Coach McKillop without like an opening season kickoff meeting to outline like, hey, here's our team, here's our schedule. This is when we're going to practice. This is how we're going to practice. This is the offense we're going to run. Like, what it is going into it. And businesses don't do that.
That's crazy.
We have a, Christmas party, and all right, how was a good year? And all right, everybody's off for 4 days, and then we start and just do the same thing again in January.
Right.
Reset it. Like have a season kickoff and just say, hey, this is what we're going to dress. This is how we're going to dress. This is how we're going to treat people. This is how we're going to respond to, clients that aren't happy with what we do. Like literally talking about it's all about intention when it comes to standards. Leave not like, all right, what's end of the year review? What are the 5 worst things that you dealt with this year? And then we build that into our feed bank for the next year to talk about, okay, this is how we're going to respond when this situation happens. When we get new people, this is how we're going to celebrate them. When crisis happens, when pressure happens, this is who we are. This is our brand. This is how we respond, and let people kind of help feed into those conversations. And then, you have buy-in, and then you have now accountability. And you have a standard and expectations that everybody has talked about, that they are aware of, that they contributed to. So when you see that out of line behavior, you can say, hey, I think, matter of fact, you were the one that said when a patient calls and cusses you out, we're going to respond this way. I noticed that you didn't do that. I just want to make sure we're stay on track from where we want to go. And usually, humans, we need that. People love that kind of stuff. They're like, man, you know what? I hate you right now, but you're right. I'm gonna work on that, and it's like, okay, they're serious about accountability here, right? And here's our standard, and man, everyone's working toward that. Man, that's so freeing to just know that you can come into work and know that, hey, we're all trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because I think what's missing in a lot of businesses, and I'm not an expert like you are as it relates to business management and leadership and all that good stuff, but I can say from my experiences, it's really, missing the opportunity of dialogue and really getting feedback and, really having conversations about the standard, to your point, and the goals based on customer feedback or team members feedback or peer reviews, really understanding like what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and then how do we fix those issues. So because to your point, a lot of businesses are about speed. Like they're burning people out in their jobs because they're not really listening to what the customers want and what their team wants. And so you get a lot of people that's burnt out. And so I love what you just said. And I think, if anyone's listening to this, that, you're in a position where like you're trying to grow a business, and I can, speak this, I'm speaking to myself right now. You're trying to grow a business and you're trying to scale it. Like these things are so critical that, you can only grow so far with the team that you have, the right team that you have. So to conclude, Mike, if there was, let's say there's a new, a new business owner, entrepreneur, if they wanted to, if there's one bit of advice you would give them when they're just starting fresh, it's them, they're solo, but they're wanting to scale and grow. What would be that one bit of advice you would say start with first?
I would say get a picture of the Stonecutter's Creed and hang it somewhere where you can see it every day. It says, you know it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just when I think nothing seems to work, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at a rock as much as 100 times with nothing to show. Yet I know that at the 101st blow, the rock will split in two, not because of the 101st blow, but all the ones that came before it. If you are passionate about what you're doing and you believe in it, and it's something that you're serious about, it's going to work. It's just going to take time.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I have to remind myself of, is just to be patient. We talked earlier about trees growing, like the roots have to go down first before the tree can go up. And a lot of times you're just hitting away, man. And God knows I'm preaching to myself here, but it's like, all right, just keep hitting it, hitting it, keep working, keep pushing it, and eventually that you start to see results. It just takes time. Entrepreneurship is hard. There's a reason why a lot of people don't do it. There's a reason why corporate America exists, because people can have security. It's not secure, but I admire and love those that are willing to bet on themselves and say, hey, I think I can do this either a different way or a better way, or I can solve something that isn't being met. And so a lot of it is just remembering why you were doing it in the first place. You know, sometimes you lose yourself in it and say, well, it's all right. I'm all right, honey. I'm going to work. No, no, no. You're not going to work. You're going to something that was your idea that you wanted to build, that is going to change the way people interact with your industry, right? You're building something that doesn't exist.
Right.
There's no blueprint for that, and that should be treated, kind of like on that. Man, that's a privilege. I mean,
Right.
in my humble opinion, it's not the easiest thing in the world to just get a good job, but you can apply somewhere and get a job probably somewhere, right? But to create something out of nothing, I just think is really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And so, this guy, he brought the wow factor. He said so many facts. I would have probably paraphrased it, it'd been way off. But Mike, man, I appreciate your time. Deck leadership, diversity, efficiency, culture, and kindness, man. I think what you provide for a lot of businesses and just in general to the community is amazing. If you're looking to build a culture, like this guy is in the pit, like he's in the pit stop. So 12 culture, you got to read that book.
Yeah.
But Mike, I appreciate your time today. And if anyone wants to contact you, we'll put in the description of the episode. But what's the best way to reach out?
You can, Mike at deckleadership.com. We're on I'm on LinkedIn, Mike Metcalf, Instagram, Mr. Metcalf Jr., and 12secondculturebook.com is the website for our book, and deckleadership.com. So, and then Shaun Peet. So he's got a lot more good stuff too. So he's Shaun at Deck Leadership. So reach out to the two of us. We love talking, creating, and building. And I know Lawrence, excuse me. I was just thinking about Lawrence because I saw something. Lamar, I know we got to get Lawrence is one of our other buddies. We still got to get together, Shaun, and do some fun stuff with MedRank. So we haven't forgotten about it, but look forward to building some stuff with you guys as well.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to go down that path because we all know we need it.
So we all do.
Right.
We're all learning together.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks again for the opportunity, and we'll see you guys next time.